This video is made possible by our patrons on Patreon. To get access to videos like this early, see exclusive behind-the-scenes bloopers and other such fun things, including this stupid sticker, head on over to my Patreon. What can be said about lost media? Evidently a fucking bit. But what is lost media, I hear no one asks, because everyone knows what it is, apparently. Why, it's exactly that. Media that through either poor archiving, studio negligence, or sometimes mysterious circumstances has more or less ceased to exist. What was once nothing more than just an unfortunate byproduct of the poor preservation tactics of the past has now become a damn near bona fide movement online today. Certain sects of the internet have become obsessed with lost media, with entire Discord servers, forum boards, and other internet gatherings being created with the sole purpose of trying to find these lost relics of the past. And honestly, the shit they've done is pretty extraordinary. There's just something so compelling about the idea of finding lost media. The idea that there exists an unknown number of lost movies, TV episodes, or anything else from any number of beloved franchises just waiting to be found is really cool. And make no mistake, more and more lost media is found every year. From Johnny Bravo's play-by-play of Goku vs. Frieza to the raciest SpongeBob storyboards ever put to paper.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
These discoveries not only fuel the optimism of other media historians, but offer a certain validation as well. After all, if someone else was able to unearth such an obscure piece of media, why couldn't you? But more interesting to me is how lost media has been used as a framing device for all sorts of creepypasta and internet horror stories. From kids' movies deemed too scary to ever be aired again, to so many cliched lost episode pastas that they can be sorted into 3 categories.
It was all a dream!
What if thing, but bad? And sans? Long story short, the mystique of lost media seems to lend itself perfectly to the world of horror fiction. But what if I told you that your favorite cartoon character biting the big one isn't even the scariest thing to do with lost media? That the real horror surrounding lost media isn't fictional at all? What if I told you that, sooner than later, lost media will become even harder and harder to relocate? And what if I told you that was by design? Ladies and gentlemen and those beyond the binary, welcome to the intro. It sounds crazy on the face of it. I mean, recording, archiving, and preserving content these days is easier than ever, what with the advent of broadband internet and the ability to download more or less anything from your favorite website, legally or otherwise. I mean, we've come a long way from sacrificing your cat to get the fucking TiVo to record an episode of SpongeBob. How could it be that the increase in lost media will outperform our best efforts at finding it? Well, the reason is far scarier than any eldritch abomination or haunted episode of The Simpsons. It's capitalism. But what do you mean by that, comrade? I hear you ask. Well, let me point you to today's main topic, Disney's Crater. Premiering on May 12, 2023, Crater is the story of Caleb Channing, a young man living on a lunar colony in 2257 who, until his father is given the usual dad in a Disney movie treatment, has 20 years of hard labor ahead of him before he can retire to the idyllic planet of Omega. God, only 20 years of work before retirement? Really?
Is that really the thing you're hung up on?
Well, excuse me if I want a little realism out of my Disney movie about kids on the moon. Fuck you! However, after Caleb's dad dies just one day from retirement, his last will and testament decrees that his family is to be sent to Omega in his place. With only 3 days left before departure, Caleb sets off with his friends to explore a distant crater that his father used to visit, learning countless lessons along the way and gaining a new appreciation for what he has, before losing it. In short, the usual feel-good, fun-for-the-whole-family Disney fare. By all accounts, Crater is pretty unremarkable. The film got good reviews after its release, and reception to it seemed to be more or less positive. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie by any means, but it wasn't exactly setting the world ablaze either. How do I know this? Because apparently nobody fucking watched it. Now, Disney keeps its viewing numbers pretty close to its chest, only choosing to reveal them anytime they can brag about how Glub Shido brought more viewers to The Mandalorian than there are followers of Christ. But we can say with pretty good certainty that not that many people watched Crater, because just a month and a half after its release, it was gone. That's right, just 48 days after Crater was released onto Disney+, it went the way of a Soviet-era political opponent and was completely scrubbed from the streaming service. Meaning that if you didn't illegally copy this barely marketed spacefaring Disney movie or know someone who did, you literally could not watch it anymore. But why? I hear you ask in your soothing, inquisitive voice. You look great today, by the way, very healthy. Simple. Money. Evidently, Crater's viewing numbers didn't meet whatever internal arbitrary quota that Disney had, and so they decided to cut their losses and get rid of it, believing that the film would be more profitable as a tax write-off than an actual piece of streaming entertainment. Or, to put things more bluntly, because this film didn't perform to Disney's expectations, it lost the right to exist. Crater wasn't released on any other streaming services, meaning that once it was taken off Disney Plus, that motherfucker was gone. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you all the reasons why this is bad. But I also know that you love hearing me talk, so fuck it, let's do it anyways. Crater's short-lived Disney Plus shelf life is bad for a lot of reasons, a lot of which have to do with the production side of things. Did you know it takes a lot of people to make a movie? I mean, look at that, that's gotta be like 12 people, maybe 13. But for real, a lot of hard work and personal sacrifice goes into making a motion picture, a feat that's only possible by the contributions and collaborations of a whole shit ton of people, including actors, directors, writers, VFX artists, etc. Production on something as big as a Disney space epic takes a long fucking time and a lot of fucking effort. Now imagine that you've spent the better part of the last 2 years of your life working on a movie that won't even be available to be seen for more than 2 months. It's really nothing more than just a huge middle finger to the entire cast and crew. It's a middle finger to the writers who went through multiple rewrites to get the one they used in the film. It's a middle finger to the director who went to painstaking lengths to sell every scene put to film. It's a middle finger to the VFX artists who were no doubt overworked for little compensation to create the visuals for a movie that, again, wasn't even available for more than 2 fucking months. Hell, it's especially a middle finger to the actors. Sure, most of the younger cast has had previous success in TV or other movies, but for those who hadn't and who were hoping that this high-budget Disney movie would be either their big break or a monumental step in advancing their career, well, sorry, Buster, your stupid-ass Moon movie ain't hitting the right taste clusters, so now nobody's gonna see it. Congrats on wasting the last 2 years of your life. You see, this human cost isn't something that's ever really considered when corporations decide to do shit like this. Nearly 2 years of hard human work is thrown down the drain just because it didn't make the stockholders happy. I mean, really think about it. Can the writers, VFX artists, actors, or whoever else worked on Crater even put it on their resume? And if the answer to that is yes, would they? Yeah, I worked for 2 years in a high-concept Disney project with a budget of $53.4 million. You can't fucking watch it though. I mean, think about that. If you were involved with a project that your corporate overlords considered such a financial failure that they literally Stalined it out of existence, would you put that on your resume? But does it really matter if they all got paid? I hear you say. To which I'd respond, yes. Yes, the people involved made their bag and were paid commensurately for their hard work. Well, everyone but the VFX artists. But still, the moment we start justifying a project's removal simply on the grounds of whether its cast and crew got paid is when we become no better than the profit-driven companies that removed it in the first place. Not everyone who worked on Crater did it for a paycheck. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people only saw it as a job and it went no further. But there were absolutely people involved who believed in the movie, who saw it as an opportunity to tell a compelling and heartwarming story or a chance to really resonate with an audience through their performances or the visuals therein. You know, the people who, while still getting paid, would probably fight for the movie's right to fucking exist. That's why I hate the argument of, well, what does it matter if people got paid? Because not everyone creates art with the sole purpose of profiting from it. If that were true, then NFTs would have been like 95% more successful. Believe it or not, there's still people in the industry who create shit because they want to tell a story, or to share their creative visions with the world, or to express their passion for the filmmaking process as a whole, not just to make money. Like me! Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that. My point being is when you take down a movie as collaborative and big as Crater, you spit in the face of everyone who made the mistake of caring about the work they did. But Crater's removal is not just bad for its immediate cast and crew, it's bad for the consumer as well. That's you. Like I said before, Crater got prominently favorable reviews from critics that watched it, and I bet you that there were a good majority of people who either watched the movie alone, with their kids, or with whoever that probably liked it too. And not to get controversial, but I think they should have the option to watch it again if they so wish. Even if the few people who watched Crater never came back to the film, I still think that the option should be there. If you and your family really enjoyed Crater, if its story and themes really resonated with you, then you shouldn't have to jump through the hoops of trying to find a torrent of it or some other illegal copy just to enjoy a film you only had 48 fucking days to watch and maybe watch again. But let's get into the most insidious implications of Crater's removal, the precedent it sets for streaming services going forward. Don't get me wrong, streaming services have removed plenty of original content in the past due to either low ratings, viewership numbers, or whatever, but never have these been as egregious as removing a $53.4 million movie in less than 2 months after its release. Especially when, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but there were no alternatives to find and watch it. You know, I remember when streaming services were just getting started. It was a novel and exciting idea at the time, a platform containing a majority of some of your most favorite content and a lot of other obscure films that you may have never heard of before. It sounded great. It's the reason that a lot of people called early Netflix and Hulu cable killers, because they, if you'll forgive the pun, streamlined people's ability to access their favorite TV shows, movies, or whatever with a convenience that you just didn't get with the old bulky cable packages of yesteryear. But these days, things have changed invariably for the worse. It seems like everyone's coming out with a streaming service, further adding to the oversaturation of an already oversaturated streaming landscape and decapitating the convenience that streaming used to advertise as one of its most defining features. Or, to quote my favorite non-binary ghoul,
in the end, if you want full media coverage, you'll need to subscribe to so many different services that it'll basically be a cable package.
But don't worry, it gets worse. Because at least with cable, your favorite TV shows could potentially have reruns or re-airings, but now, not only do you need at least 45 different subscriptions in order to watch all your favorite TV shows and movies, but there's a precedent for the copyright owner of said media to just get rid of it, leaving you with no other option but to turn to less official ways of watching your favorite media. Disney's removal of Crater is so concerning because, historically, streaming services were a way to give new life to media that may not have enjoyed the same success on cable or network television. You want to know an example of a show that had fairly middling viewing numbers during its run on TV, but thanks to people watching it on Netflix, saw an increase of 2 million viewers to 10 million? Breaking Bad. While never a financial failure, Breaking Bad's first 4 seasons never enjoyed the overwhelming viewership numbers and engagement that its 5th season did. And that's more or less because of Netflix. It, for lack of better words, helped to make the show as popular as it is today, and helped pave the way for Better Call Saul to come out a few years later. But sadly, that kind of streaming signal boost probably won't ever happen again. Crater is proof that the floor of success for any given project within the streaming sphere has risen so high that, unless something is an immediate breakout hit, it runs the risk of being completely purged and forgotten about. It's become a bit of a meme that Netflix cancels shows faster than a conservative talk show host on a hot mic, but that too just goes to show that streaming services are not the safe haven for new and experimental media that they used to be. Which ultimately brings us back to our original point. Lost media, and how the struggle to preserve and archive media is only going to become harder and harder as years progress. Media preservation is important, as not only can it give great insight to future viewers on the culture of the time and the people who made it, but also because it can breathe new life into films and TV shows that may not have found that much success during their initial release. Scott Pilgrim's a great example of that. While a cult classic today, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World's success really only came as a result of both its home release and later availability on streaming services, since it was more or less a flop when it initially came out. And that's what makes this so unfortunate. Seeing streaming services that have once helped shift the trajectory of underappreciated films and TV shows change their very makeup to ensure that that never happens again is just really disappointing. Some might make the argument that a movie like Crater isn't that important, and shouldn't warrant this kind of free associative rant. Others might say that, regardless of your view on media, it's ultimately Disney's decision on what happens to their original movies and TV shows, and they can purge them to their heart's content. And while you would be technically right on that second one, that doesn't mean that many people still don't suffer as a result of that decision. You don't need to be producing Scorsese levels of cinema in order for someone to resonate with your work, whether they played a hand in creating it or just enjoyed watching it. By removing content so quickly after its initial release, you rob both parties of being able to enjoy, learn, or potentially be inspired by it. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the never-ending battle of artistic intent and execution versus profit-motivated companies that don't care about the morals or inherent value of the things they bankroll, only if they make them a return on investment. And while films and TV shows once had the chance to maybe one day find success through slow exposure and word of mouth, scenarios like Crater prove that that model of gradual success is more or less dead. Killed by money-hungry corporations, whose only litmus test for a film is whether it will be more or less profitable as a tax write-off. And with that in mind, I return you to my cryptic warning at the beginning of the video. The amount of lost media to be found is only going to grow in time. Regardless of what strides we've made in recording and archiving media, the whims of stockholders and the money men will ultimately take precedence and be the deciding factor. It's an unfortunate byproduct of living in our capitalist, profit-driven society. But that's why media preservation is so important. Every week, more and more shows are scrubbed from their respective streaming services, potentially to never be seen again. Worse yet, many of these shows and movies are original creations exclusive to that service, meaning that not only will they never see a physical release, but once they're gone, they're gone. What was once a byproduct of poor archiving or studio negligence has now become a battle between those who wish to preserve media for new audiences and interested viewers and the copyright owners, who don't see media through the lens of creative vision, but only through profit margins. And that's the scariest thing of all. Not lost episodes of SpongeBob or The Simpsons, but entire films and series ceasing to exist because they don't meet the arbitrary quotas of those more concerned with money than art. Which is why preserving these works is so important. Because ultimately, the decision on whether something should or should not be seen shouldn't be up to those who don't concern themselves with the intrinsic value that goes into filmmaking. Even if something is bad, it still deserves to be preserved, to be enjoyed, even if ironically, by other viewers in the future, to be studied and learned from by those who are inspired by the craft, and to be appreciated by those who, despite popular belief or what reviews may exist, still look back fondly on it. Crater was returned to Disney Plus on September 26th, as well as Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, and Google Play, as well as finally seeing a home release as well. All of this was almost certainly a result of the internet backlash after its removal. And don't get me wrong, restoring Crater and making it more accessible to interested parties is a good thing. But make no mistake, the precedent has been set. You see, thanks to Crater's removal and subsequent return to Disney Plus, Disney has just discovered a win-win scenario for themselves. Either their film flops and they can remove it without anyone being the wiser to collect that sweet tax write-off money, or their film flops, they remove it, and thanks to the collective outrage and FOMO of the internet, they restore it and ultimately get their money back as the controversy draws more and more eyes to it. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity, and, well, in this case, there really isn't. If they hadn't taken down Crater so soon after its debut, I doubt you and I would even be talking about it right now. Now, am I saying that that's what they did this time? That they created an artificial sense of urgency and interest in a project that otherwise might not have enjoyed the same success it's seeing now? No, but I am saying there's nothing stopping them from doing that in the future. Controversy can be great for a film's success, and they're learning that as we speak, as more and more people are interested in seeing the Disney Plus movie that failed so badly it was removed from the service in less than 2 months. Or, in short, no matter what, they come out on top. So what can we do about it? Why, I guess nothing. Guess we'll just have to see how the tea leaves go and yarr! But why don't you let me know what you think? Do you believe that the amount of lost media is going to outpace our best abilities to find it? Do you think that all media should be preserved for future generations? Or do you agree with Disney's removal of Crater? Hell, have you even seen Crater? And if so, was that before its removal or as a result of it? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you liked and subscribed this video. Until next time, insert video outro here. Oh fuck, I shouldn't have read that. So chew me up in space.